David Marquet.
Yeah, it's Marquet.
Sorry, David Marquet.
Let's start again. It's a French name.
Let's keep it that way. David.
Yeah, David, that's perfect.
Great to see you in Poland.
It's so much fun for me to be here.
Welcome.
My first time in Poland.
Have you tried pierogi?
I love pierogi, but I've had pierogi all over the world, including in Florida, where I live.
Done by Polish people?
Maybe not.
Probably.
Yeah.
You wrote 2 books.
Yeah.
Turn the ship around.
Zmin kurs.
Correct. And leadership is a language.
I don't know how to say that.
Język przywództwa. Język przywództwa.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. That's my job, to translate your book to Polish.
Yeah.
These books are different or the same? Because we receive many questions asking us, hey, is this book a second part?
Yeah.
Different book? Why I should buy this book?
Yeah. So when I went to the my American publisher, Penguin, I wanted this to be book 2 in a trilogy. Because to me, it's a continuation of the story. This is the story of what happened. This is more about, it's more detail about the language that we used and how you can do it in your company or your family or
there's much more how-to in this book, right?
There's more specifics about language. We also did some research about language and understanding the structure of language. So for me, they're connected. They're 2 different things. This is the story of when I was a submarine commander. This more comes from our corporate, what I learned dealing with corporations over the last 5 years. But I wanted it to be book 2 of the trilogy. And the publisher said, well, what's book 3 going to be? And I said, well, I don't know. We'll figure that out after you get book 2. And they said, well, we can't call it book 2 of the trilogy if we don't know what book 3 is going to be. So anyway, that's why it is the way it is. But the way you portrayed it, where the covers are connected with a nautical theme, is, I think, correct.
Great. What does it mean to be a leader? That's the main question that probably you receive from people around the world. Like, how is it?
Here's a terrible answer, but it depends.
It depends.
It depends on where you are, what you're doing, and what you're trying to do. For me, leadership starts when you're young and you just graduate from school, you get a job. Leadership starts from being accountable, being responsible, being competent, studying your craft, and making decisions. This is sort of the directing, the performing and directing phase. Then once you get a team, more of a team, you want to start developing people. And then what I think you want to do is actually become the designer of the organization. So in other words, how do we structure our meetings? How do we structure the way we talk to each other? How do we structure the phrases that we use in a way that naturally develops leaders? And for me, it's really hard because there are a lot of things pushing against us. Social media, the movies, the way the movies portray leadership, the language that we use, without thinking about it, that we've inherited from the Industrial Revolution, all push against what I think the kind of leadership that we need today.
From my point of view, the first book, Turn the Ship Around, Zmin kurs, is about let the people do the job.
Yeah.
Stop distracting them, like let them do the job.
Yeah.
That's the point?
It's not, yeah. So it starts with let them do the job, but the way I think about it, there's 2 aspects to the job. There's decision making and then what we call execution, or deciding and doing. So for example, for you have to decide, am I going to publish this book or not? That's probably the most important decision, because if you pick a book that's not of interest to your readers, it's not going to sell very well. It doesn't matter how good a job you do printing it and putting a cover.
It wasn't the right fit for the market.
Yeah, it wasn't a right fit for the market. It could have been a fine book, but it just wasn't a right fit. The doing part isn't going to make a difference if you made bad decisions. it'll make it 1% better, 1% worse. A decision will make it 1,000% better or 100% worse. So in work, our tendency is to focus on the doing. That's what companies have done for the last 100 years. And that's what leaders focus on because it's very visible. You can say, oh, look, I don't like the color here, or look, there's a typo here, or the paper. So the doing is the visible part of the work, so it attracts our attention like a shiny object. But the decisions behind the doing are really what matter. So, let the people do their job, but not only let them do their job, but let them make as big a decisions as possible. Let them make decisions. So the people who are doing the work are the same people who are making decisions about the work.
So, for example, your advice is like, I should let my people choose what kind of books we're going to publish, or I should make a decision. Okay, we're going to publish David's book. Okay, that's the decision. And now it's your turn, like, do the job.
So so push as much decision-making to them as possible. I think for you and your company, I think you probably still need to be the decision maker about whether to publish the book. Now, let's say your company grows. Now you're covering France, Germany, and the Russian market. So you have someone in charge of those different markets, and they live in Paris and Berlin and Moscow. They know what's going on in those cities.
Sure.
So you would say, look, you're going to decide which books from the Russian market we're going to take, the German market that we're going to take. And if you say, okay, we're going to publish the book, so you probably have someone who's responsible for cover art.
Yeah.
What we like is for people to say intent. So you're publishing more than one book every week in your company. So you're pretty busy. So if every time I went up and said, well, Machin, what do you think? Should I format it this way? Or should the page
this color or that color?
This color. Like, you would never sleep.
Micromanagement.
And so what happens is say, look, you're responsible for the formatting. Just tell me what you intend to do. So it's not like you don't say just do it. And then you get the book and you're like, oh, man, I don't know about that. So they'll say, hey, here's what we intend to do. We intend to format it this way, intend to make it look this way. And if everything's great, you're just like, great. You don't need to say anything. You don't even need to respond to the email. They send you an email. They attach the proofs.
But sometimes they think, I don't care if I don't engage in the process. If they prepare the book, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's smooth.
Yeah.
What about this situation? Some people need some kind of compliments, see the leader engage in the process. Like, I agree with you. I like the way of leading, but I do the job. Yeah. I won't interrupt.
Stay involved. Look, what we said, we don't want hands off, eyes off, and we don't want no involvement. That's why we like intent, because we can say, here's what I intend to do. Now you go, oh, okay. And the key is then let them tell the story. Oh. And most of what they're doing is going to be great. Hey, tell me about how you came up with this image? What images did you reject? What was the inspiration behind picking this particular image? Like the wheel, what does the wheel mean? That kind of thing. And then they can tell you, well, we've had this, then that. Then I was walking my dog, and then I had this idea, and then I was watching Discovery Channel.
I woke up in the middle of the night with the idea.
I woke up in the middle of the night. And you have to let people tell their story. And then there may be something you say, on the back I have a better quote. I just talked to somebody so let me give that to you. Yeah. But you don't start with that. You always try to start what's good, what do you like, and let the person tell their story. So you want to be involved. One of the most important things for leaders to do is make sure their people feel valued, and you do that by making them be visible. Mm. And you make not just them, but their efforts visible. So much of the time people are working, we don't see what they're doing. They're thinking, they're struggling, they're looking things up. And it's just like, we just take it for granted.
And what about situation? You were captain of the submarine, right? So you couldn't change the crew for other people.
Right.
Okay. In the company, we can change.
Yeah.
We can hire new people, we can fire some people.
Yeah.
So what was the difference between the situation in a submarine and out of the submarine?
Yeah, so I actually think it's very useful to think about, what if I couldn't change anybody in the company? For the rest of my life, I can't change anybody.
You need to work with the crew that they are on the
work
deck.
With the crew that I have. And because here's why. Most of our behavior is driven by the environment. So I could hire a superstar and I bring them into an environment.
It could be a disaster.
It won't matter. It won't matter. There won't be a superstar in that environment. And I could hire, I think the magic is hire just a bunch of average people, just like you and me and everybody else, and then you put them in an environment. This is the story of the Santa Fe. And we can put them in an environment where they think, where they are asked, hey, well, what do you think? Well, no one asked me that. Like, oh, well, so now it matters what I think. Well, I better start thinking good. I better study. Mm-hmm. And so then you have this upward spiral, and then more people want to come. But the point is, you can make a superstar team with average people if you put them in an exceptional environment. And that's the job of the leader. So for me, the fact that I couldn't change people actually helped me out because they didn't worry about it. Whereas we see a lot of other companies spend too much time. Oh, well, if I just got some new people. And
they focus on...
What are you going to do? You're going to fire everybody and get all new people? No, that's going to put you back at square one.
Work with things you already have in your
right.
tile of cards.
Yes.
Great. Let me just have a look at the questions from people. In leadership as a language, you mentioned about the red field zone and blue
work. Yeah, yes. We call it red work and blue work. So we went back to the story of you make a decision to publish the book, and then you're publishing the book. Now, we think that those two different activities use your brain in different ways. The decision to publish a book is what we call embrace variability activity. To make that decision right, you need to scan the horizon, you look and see which books are moving up and down on the lists, you read the newspaper to see what people are interested in.
Check the data of previous books.
You look at the number of views on a YouTube, and you ask other people. So it's we call this, you want to broaden your perspective. Mm-hmm. Once we're actually making the book, this is the printer. Print. We call it reduced variability because I want this page to look the same in this book mm-hmm. as that book, as that book, as that. I don't want like this letter to be
smaller, bigger,
a little different, smaller, bigger, like jump. Like I don't want that. I want it exactly the same. So then we shift to reduce variability, which means it's about focus. It's about excluding distractions. And machines are really good at it, but if a person's involved, like if you say you're running in a race, you go, boom, the gun goes off, I don't see anything. All I see is the finish line. Yeah, tunnel vision, and that's what you want. I don't say stop halfway. Which way do I go? No.
Should I run, or maybe I should rest?
Run, I should rest. So red work, we describe that execution, the running. That's what we call red work. Red, focus. The decision making is blue work, and what's happening in history is organizations always recognize that we need these two different kinds of work. And the way they solved it was they said, we'll send some people to school, or we'll hire people who went to school, who are good thinkers, who know how to read and write, and we're going to have them make the decisions for everybody else. And 200 years ago, that was okay, because everybody else hadn't gone to school, didn't know how to read.
They didn't have data.
Didn't have the data, didn't have an education. They were just as smart, mm-hmm. but they just didn't have an education.
Without the input information.
Exactly. We confuse being smart with being educated. So now...
Some of us are smart, but most of us are educated.
Yeah, right. We can be educated and not smart, and smart and not educated. So now the model is everybody is involved in the decision making. So that means the whole company it can talk about a decision. You can ask your people, hey, what do you know? What are your friends talking about? People who are different age, different gender, live in different neighborhoods. And now you have more information. And then then you go in decision mode. So it's not like we just sit around talking all the time. We go into doing mode. So when done with decision, now we're in doing. So the difference is thinkers and doers in the industrial age, and now everybody is a thinker and everybody is a doer, and it's managed by time. Think, do, think, do.
All right. You also write a lot about baseball. And what is it? New playbook.
Playbook, yeah. So I call it a playbook because my experience is I would just automatically react in certain ways. So for example, we would get together and someone would say, well, I think we should turn left. And I think that's a bad idea. And my reaction would be, well, why do you want to do that? Or are you sure? Or is that safe? And the way I reacted sent a signal that I thought they were wrong. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes they would say, well, yeah, let me explain. Or sometimes they would say, yeah, never mind. Mm-hmm. And then I would lose the idea. And the point was that my reactions were automatic. I was not controlling my reactions. And those reactions were binary questions, and they come from a place of I'm right and you're wrong. I think I'm right. So I wanted to react differently. I wanted to say, oh, tell me about that. Okay. How'd you come up with that? I wanted to be curious. At the end of the day, if what they said, I still said I think it's wrong, that's fine. But it was after I was curious. And so
it's kind of wedge between action and reaction. Like you stop yourself from...
Exactly. It's a wedge. Yeah, it's a pause
it's so like a microsecond, right?
A microsecond. And so many times I react and I have to control my reaction. And here's another example. I put a group together. Let's say we have executives. We're going to do this afternoon. I'm running a workshop in here. I say, okay, without looking it up, what's the population in Warsaw? And what'll happen every single time is someone will say, oh, I think it's 1.9 million. And then someone will say, no, I think it's more like 2 million. No, it's 1.8 million. Blah, blah, blah. So what happens is we anchor the group and we argue about that. The person who thinks it's 1 million or 10 million doesn't speak up. And so, then I say, well, why did you run the meeting that way? Because in your company values, you say, oh, we want diversity and inclusion. And so diversity means people who think differently to be able to say what they think. And when you said, I think it's 1.9 million, it's very hard for the person who thinks it's 1 million or 10 million to speak up. And even if they do, they might say, oh, well, maybe it's 1.5 million. But you lose the fringes.
What about the answer, like, I just check it, it's like 1.9, for example. That's the wrong answer in such a meeting? If it's a fact, not opinion. I just check it, I count all people in Warsaw, that's the proper number.
Yeah, no, you can do that. But what I'm just trying to get, so that's maybe, so here's a better example. What year will Poland go on the euro? Okay. So yeah, it's not something we can look up.
Sure.
Right. Or what's the value of the Polish stock market in 5 years?
Right.
So in all these cases, you want to ask a question. When we do it in a workshop, we ask a question that we can look up, so we can then go say, okay.
So it's all about inclusion, not exclusion. Like we want to engage everyone and choose from the variety of ideas the best one.
Yeah.
Not scare people and make them more open to share ideas.
Right, but the point is that we run the meeting. In order to do that, you have to run the meeting differently than you've probably seen every meeting run. And when I ask people, why did you do it that way? They don't have an answer. It's like, oh, well, is there a different way? Yeah, you could do it differently. You could say, everybody write down what you think the year that Poland will go into Euro, flip over your cards, and now let's hear. So someone writes 2022, you say, okay, what do you know that we don't know? Someone else writes, never. Okay, now I hear about it. Everyone else writes 2032. Okay, great. We don't need to hear from them because that's what everyone already thinks. Okay, I'm making it up. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I say, 2022, that's different. Let's hear more about that. You're shining a spotlight on that person.
Okay. And what about conflicts? If you're in a submarine?
Yeah. So the point is you could have conflict of thought, unity of action. Mm-hmm. So let's say we're going to publish, say, you get your company together, and you can say, hey,
let's publish third book.
Dave Marquet wrote another book. Should we publish it? And you have a debate. One person says,
we didn't sell much copies of previous books.
Hey, the other book didn't sell that well. We should not publish it. Another person says, you know what? It's a really important book, and even if it doesn't sell, we want to have our name.
To make a meaning.
Yeah, we want to have, it's more about the meaning than maybe the dollars and cents in this case. And then they have this big debate, and you're the head of the company, so you say, okay, look, here's what we're going to publish it. Now, this person over here says, okay, well, I don't think it's a good idea. You don't have to convince them. You don't say, oh, let me explain why you're wrong. Yeah. Like, that's just annoying. So you say, you know what? You might be right. It's possible you're right. Let me ask you, can you take the physical actions that's necessary to publish this book? I mean, can you take it to the printer, design the cover? Yeah, I can do all that. I still think it's a bad idea. Say, fine, that's all I need. I need alignment of action. You can think it's a stupid idea, just as long as we have alignment of action. And that's what we would do on the submarine, because you couldn't choose, we don't want to pick up the special forces. They're in the ocean. We got to get them. You don't get to make a decision then.
Question about talking and listening.
Yeah.
Your favorite one, right? It's like 10% talking, 90% listening.
Yeah, this is hard. So part of the deal is I'm being interviewed, so I'm talking a lot. Yeah. But when you're running a meeting, what we see is that the person who gets paid the most talks the most, and the person who gets paid the least talks the least. But the person who gets paid the least, they may know more about the situation. They're the person writing the code, or the person who sees the patient.
They know how to print and so on. They work with the machines.
They know the machine. They say, this machine doesn't really work. It comes out, but it's just a pain in the neck to work. Like, they know, you don't know, because so what happens in meetings is, job of the leader is to even that voice, so that we suppress the voice of the loud people and our own voice, and then we encourage the people who think differently. So that if let's say I have 10 people in a meeting, each person says about, if I just counted the words, about 10% of the words. Doesn't mean to be precise, but you don't want one person saying 50% of the words, 4 people saying 10%, and everybody else says basically nothing. Because you don't know what they know. You failed in, the objective is, everybody should know what everybody knows. Everybody should see what everybody sees. But you failed in that objective because half the team doesn't know what those 5, the other half sees and knows.
Like years ago, like 15 years ago, I was a part of the assessment center done by a hire company, and they wanted to recruit some of us. And there was a group of 10 people in a room, and I didn't pass the next step. And as a feedback, they told me, I choose the strongest person from the group and I work with them, forgetting about the rest. It was the first line of feedback that I received from them. I was like, what do you think about this idea? And it was 15 years ago. I was a different person at the time.
Yeah, what do you mean by the strongest? See, it depends what they mean by the strongest person, because I think
I didn't engage like everyone to talk, to share ideas. So if
that's more what I'm saying. Yeah, I think so. That's pretty good feedback. People don't normally say that. That's their natural instinct. Humans we're actually wired from DNA to behave that way, and we gravitate towards the alphas and we line ourselves up and that kind of thing. But leadership means acting better than that.
Great. Once I was part of the group, workshop in the forest, in the woods with soldiers. And there was a group of people, and we need to grab some food from the forest, from the bag hanging up on the forest. And
keep it away from the bears.
Yeah, sure. So I did the same. I chose the strongest guy, the most motivated. They want to go. I didn't focus on a guy who like convinced me I want to go with you. Like, no, okay, you want to go with me? Okay. Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So in that sense, I think that's right, though. So
in this scenario,
if I'm leading a team, so if I'm on the Santa Fe, you're making a change. I'm telling the team, I say, look, guys, I'm not going to give you any orders. You come to me, you say what you see, say what you think, say what you intend to do. Tell me what you would do if you were me. Tell me what you would do if I weren't here. Now, some people, a lot of people, like that. They're like, great, get out of the way. Okay, here's what I see, here's what I think, here's what I intend to do. Some people were like, I don't know, I don't think that's a good idea. Why don't you just tell me the old way? And the mistake people make is I ignore the people who are trying to do the right thing. All the part that's doing good behavior, and I say, oh, Machin, let me explain to you. I give you a lot of attention. I pat your back. I rub you, and all this we call rewarding bad behavior. So in other words, you're getting a lot of attention because
you're passive.
You're resisting. Mm-hmm. And you know what? If you reward a certain behavior, you're going to get more of it. So then the next person says, oh, I'm going to be a pain in the ass too.
I want to scratch behind my ear.
Okay, now, let me scratch behind your ear. And so you don't want to do that. So for example, so I speak at a lot of meetings and conferences. Some of them start on time, some of them don't. One of the worst thing you can do, we're all here on
waiting
Zoom.
For people who didn't come.
We're waiting for people to show up. Guess what? We call it punishing the good. You just punished everyone who decided to show up on time.
I know.
You just wasted 3 or 4 minutes of their time. Then we're rewarding the people who didn't show up. You know, here's the secret to start on time. Start on time. If you always just, I guess I missed the beginning.
In high school, we were punished by teachers saying, hey, tell the guy who was late that he need to be something like what... You have to punish them. What for? What?
Yeah, I don't think. I wouldn't do that either, especially for kids. It's just like, no, we start on time. The door locks. You weren't here? Like, be an adult.
A few comments about proof mindset and protect mindset.
Yeah, proof. So, when I was growing up, people come to me and say, well, tell me how do you think it went? And I was like, oh, we did good. I tried hard. I always wanted people to think I was valuable. Mm. And so if there was any evidence like, well, I could have done a little better, it was scary. And I would kind of shy away from it. But that attitude is the very thing that keeps you from getting better. So what we say is, even though you're wired, you will want to project an image to the world that you're competent, you're capable, you're valuable, you're worthy. That gets in the way of actually getting better, which is more important in the long run. So we want to improve, not just prove. Hey, how can I do better? Hey, how was this interview? What, did I talk too long when you asked me a question? Get feedback, seek feedback.
And what answer you give to people when they ask you, okay, Mr. David, why we should read these books? What's the answer of David's?
If you want a better life, read the book. What do you mean a better life? A life where you don't have to run around telling people what to do and then checking up on them. People come to you, hey, here's what I think, here's what I see, here's what I intend to do, whether it's your family, your organization, your company, whatever. And as a result of that, you can stop we all spend our lives, we're managing down. My head is down. I got to manage my team, and you stop, and now I can raise my head up. I don't worry about it because they all come to me. Hey, Mark, Madsen, this is what I'm going to do. Hey, I saw this new book. So your team's coming to you with, you don't need to search for books to publish. They're telling you. And now you have 10 books, and you can only publish 2 a week. So your life just got better. And because of that, now you can really cast your mind wide. You can fly to New York and go to the big book fair there, and you can see new things, and you can look
hunt for new titles and authors.
Hunt for new titles and find on YouTube things way off in the corner. Not
focus
on the first page.
More important stuff.
Yeah, you get past the first page on a Google hit.
Or focus on self.
Or focus on yourself. You spend more time with your family, whatever you want to do with your life. So.
Thank you so much.
That's what I think, yeah.
Great talk. It's always better to speak in person than on Skype. So glad you came to Poland.
Well, thank you for publishing my books in Polish.
Yes, we're going to publish a 3rd book as well.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm working on it right now.
Thank you so much.
All right, cheers.